Hello and welcome back to KXAN Plus. I am your host, Esmeralda Zamora. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us live on socials or our website, happy Sunday and happy afternoon. If you're here watching us on streaming or any other platform, thank you for joining us and thank you for downloading that KXAN Plus app. Today we have our Tommy's Travel Forecast where we take a look at the weather or the forecast across the entire country, and that is exactly what we're going to do today with our KXAN meteorologist Tommy House. Tommy, thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
Esmeralda, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's the weekend. It's almost over.
The weekend. I walked into the station today. I saw you on that big TV screen. You were in the studio earlier today?
Oh, no, that was a pre-recorded Hispanic Heritage Month special.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's pretty cool.
That came out today. If anyone wants to watch that, that is on our KXAN Plus app too.
Another plug there. All right. But the weekend's been good. I know we were just talking about ACL. We haven't been out, but you said you might go next weekend?
I might go next weekend, but it looks so packed. Towards the nighttime, that there's like no space to walk in that grass.
No, and I got out of work yesterday at like 10:30, almost 10:45, and driving home was brutal.
I bet.
Because the Sabrina was the last one to go, the headliner, and there were like thousands of people on Mopac and Barton and Lamar, and we made it. We're good, but like you said, a lot of people out and about today. And even if you're not at ACL, maybe you're hitting the lakes. It's hot, but some people, like to keep their boat in the water.
Yeah. Even if you're not at ACL, you're probably gonna get stuck in that ACL traffic. It's just something that happens twice a year that we are all used to already. But if you're at ACL, stay hydrated because it is really hot, right?
And the UV index too. I had to wear a little sunscreen today on the face and the ears for making sure I'm not too toasty tonight. But definitely this time of year, that UV index is still high between around like 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. And the hydration is so important too. Electrolytes, got my bottle here.
Yeah.
So, staying hydrated is key. It's fall, but it feels like summer, at least here in Texas.
Yeah, and Tommy, a lot of the people who came out for ACL, they're either here locally, they just went to ACL, or they flew in or drove in. So I think that this week's Tommy's Travel Forecast is going to give or have a big impacts for those individuals that are traveling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if we look at the temperatures today, the highs, you'll notice that one part of the country is significantly cooler than normal with highs in just the 40s. The other half, unseasonable heat from Texas all the way up to the Midwest in New England. We're talking about records in states like Michigan and New York. They don't get the 70s and 80s this time of year. But in some of those dark blues out toward Wyoming and Montana, behind the cold front, you'll actually notice some snow falling for the Rockies, higher elevations with winter storm warnings in effect for a little portion of southern Montana there.
Wow, in October?
In October, National Weather Service says, hey, 6 to 10 inches of snowfall today is possible in those higher elevations. So we're melting here, Esme, but
we definitely are melting here. I wish we had some snow.
Yeah, and so, some of the ski lovers, they're happy. I'll tell you, they're happy they're getting some snow. But yeah, back to that radar originally across the lower 48. Cold fronts are going to try to work their way to Texas. They won't reach us, though. I know. It's tragic.
I thought we were in cold front season.
I know. Well, there's a lot of social media clicky posts I've seen around there that are big cold front moving through Texas the second weekend of October.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, that high pressure is just continuing to stay in charge. But the high pressure, another high pressure across the Midwest, bringing the same sort of heat, similar temps for highs for Austin up toward Ohio, which is, definitely not seasonable.
And what about here locally? You said we're not getting a cold front, but are we likely going to get some October weather sometime soon?
Not really. I wish I could the magic crystal ball, but I mean, it's going to be warmer than normal for the time being and not a lot of rain through the next 7 days. In fact, my 7-day forecast, which you'll see a full look at coming up at 5 o'clock on KXAN, there's not a single day that's within 2 to 3 degrees off of each other. So what I mean by that is it's either 92, 93, or 94 degrees for the next 7 for highs.
No buffer there.
And the lows between 68 and 71. So there's not this huge dip or rise of temperatures. Things are going to be staying unseasonably warm here, but record-wise, we're not breaking records, which is good.
For this month, the map that we're looking at right now, we have the top half that's going to be cooler than normal, and the bottom half where Texas is said to be warmer than normal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, this kind of goes with the anomalies here. This is a better visual to show you the effects of the front. Behind the front, where that dark blue is, that is the cooler than normal temperatures. The yellow, orange, and red is warmer than normal. And through the next few days, let's see if I can extend this into, let's say, by Tuesday afternoon here.
At least we're not in the red.
Yeah, well, right, exactly. But overall, the orange will stay like that. I'm going to go back because there was a little bit of lagging there. But walking you through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that cold air tries to get there. Warmer than normal, just continues to dominate and stay through most of the continental United States. And even the little cooler than normal blips you see aren't even significant. They're maybe 2 to 3 degrees cooler than normal.
Wow. Tommy, do you think that there could be a chance for any flight delays this weekend or into tomorrow?
Yeah, excellent question. Well, I think if you're going to be flying to some of the central plain states and even toward, let's say the Red River Valley, I'm having some graphic troubles here, y'all.
Technology on a
it's
Sunday.
the weekend. Yeah, right. That little area, that little blip of green, that is a level 1 out of 5 severe weather risk for a little portion of the panhandle of Texas, Oklahoma, through Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa. The concerns here would be a very low-end risk for some damaging winds and some hail. So walking you through the next few hours, notice there's that front kicking up some strong showers and storms from Minnesota, Iowa, down toward Wichita, Kansas. That could be bringing some thunder, of course, heavy rain. Straight line fronts like that typically bring at the surface, strong wind gusts, which can create some sort of damage there. While that happens through Monday, tomorrow afternoon, if you're flying back from ACL to Iowa, Wisconsin, northern Illinois could see some thunderstorms. But overall, the severe weather threat is very limited. Now it's Tuesday up toward the Ohio River Valley. If you're flying into Cincinnati, St. Louis, Detroit, be on the lookout for some pockets of heavy rain and some thunder. And then by Tuesday and Wednesday, that same front, that low pressure system moves a little bit further east. And now through the I-35 or I-95 corridor, I should say, that's DC, New York City, Boston, up toward Portland, Maine. That's where some heavy rain will eventually move through. Not bringing severe weather by any chance, but some rainfall totals. This is the National Weather Service. They forecast anywhere between 1 and 2 inches. Memphis, Cincy, even up toward northern New York and New England. A little more heavy rain down toward Louisiana. That's from that coastal low that's been stalling there in Florida as well. But Austin's one of the only places, Texas, one of the only states that will be 100% dry for the most part, besides the Panhandle and the Valley through the next few days.
Can any of these storms, are they related to anything happening in the tropics?
No, good question. Tropics are very, very, I want to say, winding down as of now, yes, compared to the few storms we had with Umberto and Imelda.
Yeah.
But there is another wave we have to watch closely. That is going to be out in the eastern Atlantic. National Hurricane Center says, hey, there's a 70% chance this becomes our next named storm, which would be Jerry. And then there's a coastal low in the Gulf that is not expected to become tropical. 0% chance of development there. But that 70%, even if it does develop, computer models have this eventually steering around a high pressure. The islands, the Caribbean islands, could be affected, need to be on standby for this. But the continents of the United States, I'm not seeing anything, at least through the next 7 to 10 days. But we know hurricane season, that ends at the end of November.
Yeah, so coming close to the end of hurricane season, but still there's chances all throughout now till then, right?
Yeah, I mean, October is a very interesting month weather-wise because we have some storms, as we talked about. And then way up in the Pacific Northwest, they're dealing with freeze alerts, frost advisory, and freeze watch. So they have temperatures below 32 degrees at night, highs in the 40s. And then as we look through the plains and the eastern seaboard, the warmer than normal temps in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. As you pointed out at the start of this is the month for fronts, right? These big fall fronts that can flush through. We're just not seeing that here in Texas.
Wow. Are we going to see them at all this October?
You know, I mean, beyond 7 days, the forecast obviously is a little more tricky up in the air. We look for signals. definitely you could see a front move through in October here in Austin, but it's been so warm. You know, the month of September, we only had 800ths of an inch of rain.
Yeah.
It's less than a tenth of an inch.
And lots of triple digit days.
Yeah, lots of triple digit days. I know. I think we're done for those at least, but you know, we had like 98 for a high a few days ago. So yeah, we didn't hit 100, but 98 definitely still on the hot side.
Pretty close, right? It felt like we were in triple digit days.
Yeah, it felt like we were in triple digit days, definitely. And you know, I think 90s for the next 7, of course. Beyond that, I'm a little parched, if you can tell with my voice. But beyond that, I don't see any sort of big rainmakers. And, you know, I'm more concerned about the rain, honestly, than some of these hot temperatures.
Yeah, and we do need that rain for our temperatures to cool down, or we're never going to see that fall weather, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Nick Bannon had a good point about this. With the La Nina that we're going to be statistically entering, they're more warm and dry. So the problem with that is we're not going to be seeing, at least climatologically with a more potent La Nina, the potential for some of these big cold breaks and heavy rain. We can still get some snow or even some cold air during the winter months with La Nina, but warm and drier is the trend with that kind of setup this winter. And if we transition into a La Nina, you know, my concern would be we don't get a lot of rain this month, which is the second wettest month climatologically. And then you look at these temperatures, they're going to stay warmer than normal. That will continue to significantly make our drought worse. It's already back up to a severe threshold. You know, the July rain that we had helped and brought us out of that drought stage, but now we're back in it, and it's just continuing to worsen every single week.
Yeah, and we only have a few months left into the year, so we're already transitioning into that fall season. We're going to hit winter season towards the end of the year or early next year. What can we expect for winter season? Do you think it's going to be warmer than normal?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have our full KXAN. We're all going to have our winter forecast early December. I would look right now based off of the statistical numbers, and I think it's going to be overall seasonable, a little slightly warmer than normal, but we're not going to be dealing with complete unbelievable warmth like September and October. We'll have a few good cold dips. You know, we typically get a few deep Arctic blasts, and we average a trace of snow here per year. I think we could see some flakes. Any specifics, like could we see like a huge Arctic blast, or could we see a huge snowstorm? You know, obviously that's something we can't have like a definitive forecast for, but the trend is a little bit more dry and a little bit more warm, but that doesn't mean we won't see, you know, some big rain or wintry mix or, you know, any sort of big winter elements.
Tommy, for those of our viewers who are wondering maybe why is it so hard to forecast so far ahead of winter or of fall, can you tell us what all goes into figuring out what our winter is going to look like?
Yeah, so we have these, first of all, we had to learn in meteorology school, these giant equations, atmospheric equations and variables that you plug into that equation. And now we have computers that do the math for us. So we don't have to do the math, but we have different sorts of computer model outputs. And we look at each specific output for temperature. We look at for precipitation. And these computer models can place where we think a storm could be. Of course, we could see some adjustments here. Or for this example, temperature-wise, could we see warmer than normal temperatures? And we use color tables and different sorts of ways that the audience and viewers can interpret that data. And for example, in this look, the yellows, oranges, and reds is warmer than normal, and the blues are cooler than normal. But we can also lay over, you know, where we think it's going to rain, where the clouds are going to be. So in that forecast, it typically is only accurate within a few days. You know, beyond that, it starts to get a little bit tricky and difficult. You know, there are some ensembles, which that's a whole different thing. That's dozens, if not over 100, each specific simulations put together, which could show what it could look like. But, you know, accuracy within 3 to 5, if not 7 days is typically the best.
And a lot of our viewers are always asking questions like, what is it going to be on my birthday? Or what is it going to look like on Christmas this year? And it's kind of impossible to figure that out, right?
Yeah. You know, the 7-day forecast is what we got. It's what it's manual. It's what we put in. That's not computer model data that you would get on your KXAN weather app. So we're making adjustments to it. You know, anything beyond that's tricky. Obviously, we don't have a Thanksgiving or a Christmas forecast and things like that. I mean, you know, with the tropics, how quickly things can change and alter. The atmosphere is dynamic. It's fluid. It's always moving. So, just making sure you have a trusted source and you know where you're getting your information from is the most important thing.
And for our travelers that are going to be heading out or heading back into Austin this weekend, what is the best way that they can observe the forecast or like a radar?
Yeah, KXAN First Warning Weather app is great. I don't see, at least for traveling to Austin, any sort of reason to check for severe weather updates, but it's always good just to check your forecast, stepping outside, temperatures. It also has other cool things on there, like the radar can look across the country. You can see the snow up in Wyoming, Montana with your KXAN First Warning Weather app. Also, other sorts of tools are on there as well. So it's good to always have and check for updates. But Texas itself, through the next week, this is kind of one of those tricky days as a meteorologist because you want to make it interesting and have the graphics for your forecast tonight for me at 5 o'clock. But when it's 92 to 94 every day and sunny, you got to kind of find creative ways to keep people in tune and want to watch your show, right? So it'll be interesting today, and I'm looking forward to the show tonight at 5, 9, and 10. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a fairly quiet pattern for now.
Quiet pattern this week. What about towards the end of the week? Do you kind of have an idea of what the end of this week is going to look like?
Yeah, so eventually that front that we've been talking about, so where the front is positioned right now, that's where we have the severe storm risk. That's also where we have high temperatures that are warmer than normal in front of the front. Behind the front's the cooler than normal high temperatures. And as we walk you through the next few days, this is where we're going to be seeing eventually a change and some of that cooler air flushing in through the plains, right? Some heavy rain moving in through the southeast and the Midwest. But notice Texas, keep your eye on Austin, not really getting much. Maybe a sea breeze shower at 20% for Tuesday and Wednesday. I have some rain chance in my forecast for Austin itself, but it's not big. Even the numbers that we have through the next 7 days, we're in that isolated category. There's nothing that's jumping out. Maybe next weekend, next Sunday, but even then, 5, like we said, 7 days out, it gets a little bit tricky. So for now, traveling, no big red flag issues. I don't think flights are going to be crazy delayed unless you're somehow flying up to like Wichita, Kansas or Omaha, Nebraska tonight. Tropics aren't an issue. Really, traveling shouldn't be a problem at least this next week.
That's great to hear, especially for those that are traveling here for this big festival happening right now. I'm sure that they want to have safe travels and clear skies on their way home and back here, right?
That's right. Things should be good. I guess the trade-off is we want weather, but we know there's a lot of people here who want sunshine, right? And for those who are up in that winter storm warning in Montana, they want to be down here, I'm sure, where it's 90 degrees and sunny. So it's not a bad thing. It's hot and sunny. But the beneficial rain for the drought, yes, that's where as meteorologists we want some rain, but ideally it would happen overnight, right, in between those two festivities.
Yeah, Tommy, one thing that I wanted to ask you during our last week's stream is about weather percentages. When you say there's like a 20% chance it's going to rain, does that mean that there's what do you mean by the percentage?
Yeah, so the rain chance is where you're located within our coverage area. So we cover 15 counties here. Where you stand, will there be at least 1/100 of an inch of rain, which is measurable? So 20% means about 20% of those in those 15 counties will get some rain. Typically in a setup like this, it's more our eastern counties with some daytime heating showers. We're going to have a little more moisture this week built in, so the hill country is probably going to be less than 20%. Setups in the green east of I-35 is where those on and off daytime heating showers and storms are a lot more common, right? Houston gets some rain pretty much every single day this time of year, but a lot more dry out toward the hill country and a big country. So it's based on your location in our forecast coverage zone.
So it's not 20% of the area is going to see showers.
No, it's just 20% of wherever you are. So you could be in San Saba, you could be in Fayette, you could be in Milam County. So we look into account coverage, but in general, it's just where you're placed for getting the 1/100 of an inch.
Interesting. Well, what can we expect to watch on the broadcast shows during your forecast?
Yeah, just a little more closer to home forecast, talking about those temps, talking about the heat, high pressure. Well, more update on the tropics too. We'll keep you in touch with your work week forecast. I know kids heading back to school tomorrow. now's the time to get done some of those fall projects while it's still warm and dry. You're restaining the deck, or you're going to be out and about. Not fall-like, but, just throw some ice in that pumpkin spice. You'll be good to go.
Decorating the yard.
Yeah.
Anything that you got to do outdoors.
Cutting the grass, all that. But, the same warmth is going to be around, and, we go more in depth on that, of course, on the article, too.
And the article is on our website, KXAN.com. You can find that on the homepage pretty easily. Freeze alerts, not anywhere near us, right?
No. It's way up where that cold front is.
Nice.
And then the storms with the front right there, and then talking about some of the record heat temperature anomalies. And, warmer than normal here, no records. Just calm and quiet for now, but we know things change quickly here.
Yes.
It's got some weird advertisements, too. Wait, scroll back down. What was that? Is it like a dancing?
Hotel.
There's Jayla.
Jayla.
What's up, Jayla? There was a strange ad there. I don't know.
They're always these.
Yeah, don't zoom in on that. What is that?
I don't know, but this is where you can find our Tommy's Travel Forecast blog. Right. It's up on our website already. We also have all of the previous weeks, Tommy, for anyone who is joining us and maybe doesn't know what Tommy's Travel Forecast is. Can you give them a brief explainer?
Yeah, it's always changing because every other meteorologist has, for example, Chris's Classroom's awesome. They do a lesson about science, or Friday's Weekend Watch. There's a set weekend activity. A band's coming to town. My KXAN Plus show every week is different. I mean, there's no consistency because the weather's always changing, right? So it's fun because it keeps me on my toes. The overall mission of it is to have a travel forecast in case you fly into Chicago, New York, Miami, LA. If there's any big events, we'll let you know. But when the weather's fairly calm and there's not a lot of big severe weather makers, we go a little more in depth, talk about the tropics, talk about even some freeze alerts and things like that for the ski lovers. So it varies. It really varies, but it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. And I do like to talk about the tropics, especially when there's a lot of action out during the fish storms and not so much on land, right?
Got to keep an eye on that little Caribbean wave, that high chance, though. But continental U.S. is clear for the next week.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And again, anyone who wants to rewatch this or watch any other KXAN Plus originals, you can do that where, Tommy?
KXAN.com, our streaming app, KXAN Plus, right? That's Amazon, Roku, Fire Stick, Samsung.
Wow, you got all of them.
Did I say Samsung twice?
No.
Okay.
Some people say Samsung 4 times.
This is my Friday, so.
Friday vibes. Well, thank you for joining me, Tommy. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.